Hi everybody, welcome to ADAP Convention 2023. So today we're going to have a group panelist discussion with a very interesting topic, Property Future Forward, Redefining Real Estate Innovation Through AI Advancements. I have a very honorable panelist with me today. So before we move forward to our discussion, I would like to hear I believe you guys also would love to hear and a little bit introduction from our panelists. Let's start with Mr. Justin.
Hi everybody, Justin Quek from OrangeTee in Thai, Singapore, partner with IQI, Juwai. Happy to be here. So OrangeTee has actually been in the business of real estate agency work for the past 23 years. And we've always been known in Singapore to be the most tech-forward and tech-driven real estate agency platform in Singapore. As now we know, this is a very interesting new space, but a space that I think has been waiting for a long time to develop, artificial intelligence. In the space of real estate in Singapore, I think we've been very traditional for many years. As a company, we tried to push forward new frontiers of tech all the time, and now that AI is coming in, we're also looking very closely at this space. So once again, happy to be here and to share our thoughts about what we think is going to happen down the road.
All right, thank you to Mr. Justin. Our second panelist, Mr. Nabeel.
Hi, thank you, Maz. Good morning. Well, hello, everybody. And so my name is Nabeel. I'm the Group COO and CIO at Juwai IQI. Now, Juwai IQI is a prop tech company. We were founded in sort of combination in Malaysia and Dubai. And our focus really is on the entire end-to-end transaction when it comes to real estate. And what we've done, which is quite different, is to implement technology throughout all the different parts of the real estate cycle. Now, that's obviously a passion of mine. I'm a technology person. I'm from the UK originally, where I was a software engineer and also a partner in several prop tech and fintech firms as well. And I came to the beautiful country of Malaysia about 12 years ago.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nabeel. Last but not least, we have Mr. Dave.
Thank you. So my name is Dave. I'm the Group Vice President of IQI. So before I joined IQI, I studied in the UK, in London, as a civil engineer. And after that, 10 years ago, I joined IQI as an agent. And along the way, we started to build a team. And my team, which is called Elite One, started to grow. And now we have 3,000 members within IQI itself. So we always want to innovate in the sales and marketing side for our team. So recently we have embraced the AI technology within the sales and marketing side. So our agents right now, we can use the auto chatbot, which is powered by AI technology, to actually follow up with customers, make appointment with customers, and even close case with customers. And I'm glad to be here to share some of my experience in the AI world. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dave Chong. Okay, gentlemen, since the early of 2023, we were taken by storm with these all AI things, right? So everybody is anticipating and everybody is expecting something extraordinary from the AI technology. So today, we're going to talk everything about AI and how it's going to impact our beloved industry, real estate. So I have a list of questions with me, bear with me. All right. So the first thing that we're going to cover today is AI and real estate current application. So the first question, maybe I throw to Mr. Justin. Are you okay?
Sure.
Okay. The first question would be, in your daily work within the real estate industry, to what extent do you actively integrate AI technologies and tools?
Okay. So first and foremost, like I mentioned, OrangeTee has always been a tech-forward company. So at current, we've tried to integrate some AI solutions into our existing apps already. So for us running an agency, of course, there's internal management staff, and then there's also, of course, the agents, right? So let's talk about internal management staff first. We are now actually internally as well looking at ways to so-called make our processes more efficient. So right now, we're actually internally running on Google Duet AI. That's a productivity tool, and it's really to help us basically have meetings, collaborations, even scheduling, and of course even sometimes casting out an entire email based on some thoughts and just some ideas that we put in. All these things at this moment are limited to just the productivity space, right? So increasing productivity internally. As for agents right now, for us as well, I think there are two areas that we look at. Is also productivity, but of course the number two one is more on the marketing side of things. So let's talk about productivity first. We integrated ChatGPT into our agent apps as well. And so now one of the biggest, most time-consuming things for many agents is that, of course, when they are putting up a property listing, sometimes you could potentially spend about 30 minutes actually writing a listing description. Whereas now with the integration of ChatGPT, within a minute or so, an entire paragraph or 3 paragraphs, even in fact with the options for you to choose, I want to restructure it to a more casual language, I want to make it longer and stuff like that. The options are all there. You're able to churn listing descriptions out within minutes as compared to spending sometimes maybe potentially 30 minutes on one. So that's in terms of productivity. It's also so cool that, you know, there's also like one of our agent apps, we also have like a legal feature inside. So many times in our work, there's a lot of documentation and legal documentation, sometimes written by lawyers. And lawyers, you know, I joke sometimes they go to school on a different planet. So the language that they write sometimes may not be so understandable to most of us normal people. So we've even got a function within there to sort of like simplify legal clauses and all that. So for more normal agents or even clients, sometimes they look at this clause and they say, what does this mean? Yeah. ChatGPT is able to simplify and tell it to you as you were a child, right? So stuff like that in terms of productivity. Then in the area of marketing, we've also got an integrated video tool now that we're using. Nowadays, as you know, media is a big thing. Everybody's doing videos, but videos are costly and I think most importantly, very, very time consuming. Potentially for a normal person to put and stitch together a video, you could potentially spend hours. But we have integrated a solution as well now where there's an instructional app. You go around and just film certain segments of the house. Within 2 minutes or so, it stitches all the video together, finds the songs, narrates a little bit of the description as well, and even puts your face there with the details of the property, all within 10 minutes. So you're able to produce videos today easily within minutes when compared to last time you could spend hours just to put up one listing video. So yeah, at current, we're just, as you can see internally and to our agents as well, it's really in the space of productivity and then just in terms of marketing for where we are now at the moment.
Wow, very interesting. Yeah, I remember those times before the AI, we spent hours and hours just to put up one listing. And if we have more platform, we're going to spend more time.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Thanks to the AI, it's getting easier now.
Yes.
So the second question, maybe I throw to Mr. Nabeel.
Sure.
What's the most exciting example that you personally find revolutionary in the real estate industry?
Gosh, there's so much. So just to pick up on what Justin was saying as well, to add to that, if I may. So for me, like ChatGPT, obviously, you know, the most famous AI model that we have at the moment, you know, that's become my sounding board, my brainstorming partner. So whereas before it might have been some of my colleagues, that's now my sort of partner in my business and in my and in the work that I do. So you know, massive input from that. So some of the sort of other uses, apart from my productivity, is in sort of meetings, for example. So what we'll do is we'll have like Fireflies, for example. Zoom recently launched their new note-taking feature as well. So those are really useful in terms of getting action points out. So all really about productivity. And it's something that we actively engage our agents to do as well, so that they can make sure that they get the action points out of their meetings. Marketing, again, I think it's a massive thing. And if I touch more perhaps upon content creation, you know, that's a huge thing. So as a business, what we do is we're focusing on the end-to-end real estate cycle, and we're a real estate firm. So we're producing a lot of marketing content. Now, our content team has kind of stuck at about 15 members or so. And, you know, we've grown our transactions year on year, double. So this year, for example, we're on track for about $3 billion worth of sales. And that's with a team that stayed about the same. And if we look at the past 1 year, that's really been facilitated a lot by AI. The other thing to mention is, you know, as much as my technology team would love for me to stay away from coding. I love coding, it's a passion of mine. So, every day, again, my partner is, ChatGPT for scaffolding around the coding projects that I do, but also things like Copilot, which, for my staff, for example, we've reduced the amount of effort by about 45% when they're writing code. So, our tech team numbers around 10 to 15, depending on the sort of area that they're working on. But they've increased productivity, substantially by using these tools. So, I see massive benefit from this. To answer your question, though, in terms of what I see as the next evolution around AI and real estate, I really think predictive modeling is where the consumer side of things will go. So as a consumer, and this isn't available yet in its full form, there's still a lot of research that's going on in this, but I see the scenario where a buyer will go to a platform and say, okay, find me a property which fits my criteria, this particular budget, and don't just find me one that fits my criteria, but I want it to be modern, or maybe not modern. I actually want it where I need to spend 10% cost on renovation because that's where I want to make the upside. And then I want it where in the next 5 years, I'm going to get 5% return on my yield. And that's where I see on the consumer side, really powerful way in which AI will be used.
Wow. So I love it when you put that ChatGPT has become your personal assistant. I love it because I can feel it also.
Yeah.
It works 24 hours.
Exactly, right?
Anytime when I ask question, he will be there to answer it. He or she, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So predictive model, very interesting. Love to have that also in the future.
Right, absolutely. And I think, in the real estate business, what we're about is we're empowering ultimately the consumer, right? And that's the person that we want to make sure has the full success. And the way that we do that, of course, is by empowering the property agents and the wider professional that are involved in that business.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Nabeel. So the third question, all right, to Mr. Dave Chong. Can you share specific example of AI-driven solution that have improved efficiency or the customer experience in real estate industry?
Sure. So I will talk from the sales and marketing point of view because that's my specialty. So on a daily basis for a sales personnel or for a sales team, what we need to do is to involve into the sales cycle. So what is a sales cycle? In our team, in our company, there's this thing called the multi-million-dollar sales cycle system. Okay, there are 6 steps in this sales cycle. The first one is to get leads, okay, for the sales leads. Second is to secure appointment. Third is to make presentation. Fourth is to close the deal. Fifth is to follow up with the client, and 6 to get referral. So within these 6 steps, we want to see how the AI technology can help us to improve on the productivity and also efficiency of the process. So we have been thinking to get leads, okay, nowadays the most efficient way is to create content in the social media space, be it Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Xiaohongshu, or there are plenty of platforms out there. And in the past, to create content is actually very time consuming, like what Nabeel and Justin said just now. But right now, with the help of AI technology, okay, specifically is ChatGPT from OpenAI, you can create copywriting content within like seconds. You can just write, tell me 5 tips on how to invest in a good property, and then they can come up with 5 tips. And then you can use that 5 tips to create content for your social media posts. After that, once you have created content, you have to make sure that your prospect give you their contacts. That's to getting leads. So with AI technology right now, actually we can easily create forms and also landing page. They can even create a landing page for you right now with AI. You don't have to know programming. You can just one click and then the landing page is come out together with the content. And there are a lot of apps out there that can do that right now. And then they will pass you the contact. Once they pass you the contact, it's time to secure appointment. So what we used to do is we have to call the client. We have to WhatsApp, text the client to secure appointment. But with the AI technology right now, what we can do is that we can ask the auto chatbot, which is powered by the AI model, to actually talk to the client. And the client, the AI chatbot can actually speak as though it's a human being. The client cannot differentiate whether it's AI or whether it's a human. So that, to that extent, is the capability of the AI technology right now, which this technology, we are using it on our daily tasks already. It's already here. It's not in the future. So, so the AI can actually secure appointment for you, right? So it saves you a lot of time to actually talk to the client. For example, if a client give you their contact from Facebook, if you have to, normally we have to respond within minutes. If not, normally the client will cool down. So with the AI technology right now, when the clients submit their names, AI take over. They will start chatting, okay, what property are you looking for? If they say, okay, Bukit Jalil, let's say, the AI say, okay, in Bukit Jalil, we have this project. And then they say, oh, what's the price? Then the AI can say, oh, it's actually, there are 2 bedrooms, 700,000, 3 bedrooms, 1 million, that's as a demo. And then they can continue in the conversation. Because from our industry, the most important thing in sales is to engage in conversation with the client. Okay, it's not to close the sale first. So we have to build trust, we have to engage in conversation, we have to break ice, and then only we secure the appointment. So the AI can help us to do this part. Okay, then we look at presentation. Presentation still, okay, human have to, we still have to go, we are not at that stage where AI can actually present the whole thing and then close the deal yet.
Thank God Destiny need us.
If not, then the industry, we do not require agents anymore. The AI can take over our job. But fortunately, okay, AI is just our assistant. They can secure appointment for us, and then agent can come in and do the presentation and also the closing part. After that, there's this one part which is follow up, which is very important in sales as well, because there's a saying, your client or your prospect have to see you 7 times before they trust you, before they will make a decision whether they want to buy from you or not. So to follow up with your client 7 times is actually very time consuming. Imagine you have 500 prospects, and every single day you have to say good morning to 500 person. That is very, very time consuming. So luckily with AI right now, we can actually program it to follow up with the client on a specific time schedule. For example, on a daily basis or weekly basis. When that time arrives, the AI will actually say, hello, good morning, we have this project right now. Are you interested to look at this project? So you can ask questions to the prospect. So that is a follow-up part. So AI can greatly increase our productivity and efficiency in this part, in the follow-up part. So right now, this kind of system have helped us to produce more results. In fact, yesterday, one of my agents just say, oh, his AI has actually secured an appointment for him. And then today, after the presentation, yesterday, after the presentation, he managed to close the deal. And that appointment is secured by AI.
Wow.
Yeah. And there are a lot of examples like this within our team right now. So in fact, I think AI will not take over agents, but AI is our personal assistant, and that will greatly increase our productivity and also efficiency in our daily job.
Wow. So the way you put it, that AI is talking to our prospect or client. Is it through a certain platform like maybe Facebook Messenger or email or?
In fact, it can connect through multiple platforms. Right now, we are using WhatsApp. It can actually connect WhatsApp and ChatGPT together.
Wow.
And of course, like Telegram, they have API, which is easily connected. And through Facebook Messenger, Instagram, DMs, they all can be connected right now.
So in a nutshell, ChatGPT we can set ChatGPT to live in our WhatsApp already.
Can.
Wow.
Doable.
That's very interesting, right? So
one more thing to add to that. So I was just at GTEx in Dubai, one of the world's largest technology conferences. And they had a number of humanoid robots, quite tall, unfortunately, but they could interact mostly humanly. So from my exhibitor badge, it worked out my name, where I was from. We spoke about the weather as you do in the UK. And it had a very intelligent conversation. There was machine vision you could see, so it was able to, based on my expressions, it was able to work out the sort of where to take the conversation next. So when I was surprised, for example, asked the question, "Oh, why are you surprised?" And
Oh, that's scary at the same time, right?
a little bit scary, but I don't think it will replace agents for sure. But certainly, I think it's interesting where that technology is going.
Those robots that you see, how close is it with the robot that we saw in the movie?
So, so there were a few different technologies. So this particular humanoid robot was stationary; it wasn't able to move, but it was showcasing its AI abilities. There were other robots that actually had a lot of movement. So there was one that was designed to aid people with walking disabilities. So it could help them to move around, self-balancing, etc. So eventually, I do see the scenario where companies will come together, they will combine technologies and build a humanoid robot that could do something more useful, perhaps, for example, at a restaurant, etc. I don't see that being so far in the future. It's a bit scary, right?
Yeah. Nowadays, when we order drinks in any mamak store, there will be robot coming and serve the drinks, right?
That's right.
All right. So very interesting when we talk about AI and how it's going to impact our daily life. So we're going to continue with our second part of the discussion. The second theme will be AI and property buyers, enhancing decision making. So the first question I would like to have a discussion among you is that how do AI-driven tools assist property buyers in understanding market trends and pricing, allowing them to make more informed investment decision? Mr. Justin, maybe.
Okay, let's talk about where we are currently, right? In terms of making decision for real estate, it's always about having data and also at the same time having the ability to see potential, right? So we talk about the first point, which is data first. Fortunately for us in Singapore, data is quite accessible. And in fact, the government does take quite a bit of effort also to collect not just transactional data, but even deeper level data like nationality of buyers, age demographic, stuff like that. So there are a lot of things you can study, but more importantly, from an AI perspective, develop models with that data sets. So in terms of like buyers, of course, how we usually currently help as agents today, without using AI at the moment, is of course to look at comparative analysis. Of course, before you also offer the property, you talk about getting valuations, now being done by the banks and valuers. And this gives the buyer more of a sense of like, okay, am I paying the right price for the property? Right, and then in the sense of saying potential as well, sometimes, say if you're not an architect or a design trained person, when you look at a house in its current shape, you're not able to imagine and conceive what it potentially could be. Now we have tools, staging tools as well, to allow the buyer to say, okay, taking this photo and looking at the current setup of this house, we could restage it. You like Scandinavian? All right, let's insert a Scandinavian kind of theme into it, and all of a sudden the whole space is completely reimagined. So the person is then therefore able to say, oh, this is what it could be. Yeah. Then therefore also have the confidence to say, okay, if I buy it today in this shape, actually it's able to change into this. Yeah. Right? So there are these two spaces which I feel that's where AI can really come in to help. The second portion, we are already able to do that in terms of dressing up the space using augmented reality and stuff like that. But the first space of the decision making, because in Singapore, in the context of it, we have data, now is how do we use this data, put it into deep learning models or machine learning models, and be able to come up with like certain metrics or like even foundations to be able to discern the best property. Today, the agent is still the one who has their own methodology of actually approaching what is the best property for you. So I think AI, I always remind people, it's in a much larger scale than any one human being could be. Yeah. Right? For me now, let's say I'm helping you to find a house. Let's say you're looking at a house in a specific area in Singapore. We'll just be focusing on data in a specific area. it's a bit more micro. Maybe I'll have some intuition on a macro level of things like, oh yeah, in general, Singapore, it's good to be outside core central region, so we should look at something outside core central region. Then you say, oh, I like something in the east of Singapore. Then it's a very, how should I put it, time-consuming, laborious approach. Whereas I think with AI, it's able to straight away look at the entirety of the island and then consult you and based on what's important for you, where you want your kids to go to school, where's your workplace, how long a commute do you want between your workplace every day. Just by asking a few questions, I think within a couple of minutes, it can just straight away give you the right answer, just like that. So it's very efficient. We're not there yet. Today, it's more of a painstakingly laborious process of consultation where it might take a bit more time. But with that said, some people prefer that as the human touch.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I think these are two spaces, again, in terms of like data foundation of using data to create models to be very optimal of selecting property. Then, of course, in terms of also the looking at potential, in terms of using augmented reality and all that for people to imagine a space beyond the current. Yeah. So that's, I would say, where we are at the moment.
I like the word that you mentioned just now, intuition. Does AI have any capability of having these intuition things, maybe?
Well, this one maybe I'll ask Nabeel.
I think it comes from experience, right? Intuition, and it's something that can be built upon. But I don't think we're quite yet at the point where AI can have that intuition, right? But I mean, I think we all know over here that property buying, especially residential property buying, is still an emotional decision. It's generally not very mathematical. There are a few key indicators, requirements that buyers will have. Beyond that, it's the potential that they might see for a property, for example, or the smell of coffee, as I like to use as a regular example. So I don't think intuition is quite there yet. I suppose just to carry on from what Justin was saying, AI in real estate in this area is lagging behind a little bit. But the positive side, though, is by estimates from PwC and a few others, they estimate that the current prop tech investment, so the value of the entire market, prop tech market, is about $28 billion at the moment. But that's expected to increase about 30% every year to about $130 to $132 billion by within the next 10 years. So definitely there'll be a lot of investment that will go on in the AI space now, certainly when it comes to prop tech. But we're not quite there yet. But where are we there? There are certain areas around price valuation or price estimation where AI has been shown to be really good. But it does depend on the data. So I've seen models from the US where they achieve within sort of 4% sort of margin of error with what human value has come up with the property. But the potential for that going forward, though, I think is actually amazing. Because what we're talking about at the moment are traditional data sets, right? Historical price data, economic indicators. Those are the two main sort of variables that models will use. But imagine now with large language models, they can understand social media, they can understand, very hyper-local information about property. So perhaps there's that gem of a property, within a larger area, which perhaps isn't that great. With AI, with this being able to understand social media, newspaper reports, all these sorts of things, what the next generation of models will do is really, what we mentioned before is about identifying that property which is the best property for investment within a certain budget, within the certain requirements that the buyers have. So that's the sort of price estimation side of things. I think that's where we are at the moment. Trend analysis, I think, is reserved more for the institutional investors, those who have the ability to actually build the models themselves, not necessarily just use a sort of general purpose AI to make that happen. So I think that's really more for the investor, the institutional investor side of things.
Wow, that's interesting. Dave, as the VP of a large team, so how do you think that all this data that was driven by the AI that will help us, agents?
In terms of helping the buyer to make decision on what property to buy, I think AI at this moment of time, they can help us in doing the research work. For example, imagine I'm from Singapore and I do not understand Kuala Lumpur. So what I can do is I can go to ChatGPT and then I ask, I would like to buy a property in Kuala Lumpur. 2 bedrooms, budget is within 1 million ringgit Malaysia. So what properties can you propose to me? In fact, right now, if you ask these questions to ChatGPT, it will give you some solution. It will give you some option. Okay, there are this condo, this property that is within your budget and within your specification. They can give you some proposal. But of course, that data is outdated data because ChatGPT model is based on the data from the internet until 2021. Yeah, so they don't have data after 2021. I think September, something like that, if I remember correctly. So, but that can give you an indication of what area and what property to look at. Then you can go ahead and start to do your own research. So at this point of time, I think AI is very useful in terms of doing the pre-buying research. If you do not understand that area. And that is what some of my friends have been using to study market for example, in Jakarta. Not just in property, but in other areas as well. For example, my friend, the day he want to organize an event in Jakarta, a convention about like 500 people convention, but he knows nothing about Jakarta. What we used to do is that we have to go to Google, we search what venue can we actually rent, okay, and what price, what hotel to stay at, and it's very time consuming. So what he did, he just said, I want to organize an event in a convention center for 500 people in Jakarta. What option can you give me? In fact, the AI now can come up with an entire list of options together with what hotel you should stay at, what flight you should take, and give you a price estimation also. And sometimes if they have the data from the internet, they can even give you the telephone number of the person in charge, just by one questions, or we call it the prompt. So we can use this into property as well.
I mean, just to add on to that, so what we're doing on our Juwai.com portal is we're looking at integrating natural language processing. But given that we've got, what is it, around $4 trillion worth of property that's listed on Juwai.com, we can actually integrate the search feature. So where ChatGPT lacks the listings, the sort of live listings, we obviously have them as a platform. So we're looking at how we can translate a person's natural sort of expression. I want a property in KL for $200,000 with X features, and then translate that into something that our current search engine on our portal understands. So that's our sort of halfway house of enabling natural language processing. It doesn't obviously answer to your question about price data and trends, but I think it's a good evolution of allowing us to get to that point.
I think the way we move the discussion is that this AI can help the client to make pre-decision, to get information first. But as the industry player, we should understand this data also and then use it in our presentation, because we have the one key that the AI don't have, intuition.
Yes.
And we can serve coffee, which the AI cannot, right?
Well, there was actually a coffee machine. There was actually a coffee machine, a coffee bot in Dubai at the GTEX, and it was serving a pretty good coffee.
Oh, really? All right, let's move to the next question in this theme. Are there potential challenges or barriers that could slow down the adoption of AI in real estate, and how can the industry overcome them?
Maybe if I go first. Sure. So, as an engineer and business owner, I think there are a few challenges that we'll have. One is AI needs lots of data. We're not just talking about using ChatGPT to answer rudimentary questions or make complicated prompts. We're actually talking about using data to build models, right? And you've got two main issues. One is the availability of government data. There just might not be enough good, high-quality government data available to build these kinds of models. Now, certain countries are, way ahead. The US, the UK, parts of Europe, they've nationalized this kind of data. They have what are called multiple listing services, where properties have to, by law, go on these listing services, and they cannot be outside of those services. So the government and these data providers have a good view of where where the market is. But the other piece of data that's going to really be needed is what's owned by commercial entities. So, for example, us, Juwai IQI, we own a lot of data, and there might be listing portals that own a lot of demand data. Now, if we're able to come together and combine that in some way, then I think the sort of potential to overcome those problems will be huge. So this data siloing problem, where the data is owned by different entities and not actually brought together, can then be solved. But I think that's the sort of key problem that I see. Perhaps two more would be around data security and privacy. Do we trust? So for example, to really bring AI to the consumer, right? The AI platform would need to understand my spending habits, my availability of funds, what my risk appetite is. And that means really giving a lot of data to an AI platform, which is most likely owned by a commercial entity. Do I trust that? And then, hackers are getting much more sophisticated. They're using AI themselves, right? So, how do we ensure that sort of area of things? And, I know that the United Nations, I know that governments are doing a lot of work around this particular area.
Then don't forget about scammer, because last time when they translate using Google Translate, we can tell this is Google Translate words, right?
Yes.
Now you cannot tell already.
That's right. Absolutely. The quality of scams, even phone calls are actually getting a lot better, right?
Okay, let's talk about barriers from the government of this data sharing and how the AI is using the data. What do you think? Justin, maybe?
Okay, maybe, coming from Singapore specifically, where the government has a lot of data, right? Also, integrity of data. The challenge is for us in Singapore is the regulatory bodies as well, because there's regulation on data. Then for a commercial entity to be able to access data for a greater purpose also becomes a bit of a challenge, isn't it? Because like what Nabeel was saying, would you dare to release such privileged information to commercial entities, even though if the commercial entity's purpose was for the better purpose, right? So in the sense of like Singapore also, for instance, if we just now talk about predictive models and analysis and all that, a simple thing that AI is probably used already today with some platforms is on valuations. It's very interesting what Nabeel was mentioning about earlier on, about where we are with the current state of valuations, right? Today, valuers use a lot of comparative analysis, and they have their own foundations on how valuations are done today. And having said that, in this new world that we live in, actually with AI, you're able to really relook this entire valuation model as well. Like what he said, you actually have no idea, maybe so many people are looking at a certain space. The next generation of buyers, all trending towards a certain type of house, or certain type of topology of home or location, stuff like that. An existing valuation engine doesn't look at that.
No.
But you see, the interesting thing is, right now in Singapore, when you want to transact the property and the bank wants to loan you money for the house, you will need an official valuation still from the existing valuation houses.
Yeah. Professional.
Yes. Which is not taking into consideration all these new things that perhaps we should be considering down the road. But even when we take into consideration all these new things and you build a better model today, will the regulatory framework allow you to use that model?
Yeah.
Will the bank say, hey, I recognize your artificial intelligence and your valuation engine and I like it, so I'm going to loan the money based on that, versus saying I still trust my old school, old-time valuers. Right? So I think that's going to be a bit of a structural change as well. There might be some hesitation from, if you talk about like the chartered surveyors and valuation houses and stuff like that, I think they're going to have a little bit of apprehension.
There's that protection element as well.
There is,
right?
there is.
Like we protecting our profession.
It is a profession, right? Yeah, it's a body, and it's a professional body. So things like that, I think, will of course be holding us back a little bit, right? Then also in terms of the space, because again, coming from data integrity in Singapore, but with integrity, like what Nabeel said as well, for AI to really work effectively, you need really big critical mass. And I think it's hard to find places in the world today that have a balance of these both things, right? Critical mass of data, at the same time, real integrity of data, right? I think that's the balance you need to have in order for an AI model to work extremely well. Yeah, so even in the case of Singapore, you say there's integrity, but like I said, 10,000 transactions in a year in Singapore, how do you formulate a a reliable and robust model from those kind of numbers, right? So that will also remain a bit of a challenge going forward, lah. Yeah.
And I think, sort of to the technological challenge that you were saying just now, there's another example of a company, again, in the US. And what they did is that they used a lot of historical data to build a model that would price properties. And on the basis of that, they made decisions about buying and selling those properties. And it just so happened in 2021, they actually closed that company because, or that particular iBuyer I'm talking about. So they shut down because it just wasn't working. And their problem was they were using historical data, which AI can only rely upon, right? But then it was applying it to a current set of data which just didn't match. So I think there will be technological hurdles, and that will lead to issues of trust. If I make a decision to spend $1 million on buying a property based on an AI recommendation and it comes out wrong, I've been stung once. I probably will be cautious the next time if I'm going to make a decision based on that AI recommendation again.
Yeah. What about the frontline Dave? How does this adoption of AI become a barrier to them?
Of course, from the technology point of view, like what I mentioned just now, is the data is only up to 2021. So a lot of people, especially the buyers, if they want to use AI technology, they can only get old data at this moment of time. So after a few try, they'll say, oh, this old data, I don't want to use anymore. So it will stop people from continue with using AI technology. So like a lot of my agents right now, sometimes they try to ask questions in ChatGPT or in some of the in-house AI. They cannot get what they want. All the data is old data. So, and then they say they don't have confidence in the AI anymore, so they stop using. So moving forward, I think a lot of the new startups, what they're doing right now is to train custom data and use the model, the large language model, like for example, ChatGPT, and combine them together. So ChatGPT can actually analyze custom knowledge on a big scale. Right now, it's pretty expensive to actually train custom data, especially if you have like millions of data. For example, you have a portal with a lot of listings. It's going to cost a lot of money to train that data. And I've tried before. If you make one mistake, you have to retrain again. For example, you feed in them like 100,000 listing, and then on the 99,000 one, they stop. You made a mistake, you realize, then you have to retrain again, and then you have to spend that money again.
But you cannot unlearn them.
No, it's like a subset of data that you plug into the model. So I think right now the challenge is training data requires a lot of processing power, and that costs a lot of money. So in fact, I mean, for small companies, they won't be able to afford that. This game is only for the multi-billion-dollar company to do that. But I believe moving forwards, once the processing power becomes cheaper, I mean, a lot of these new companies coming up with the more powerful chips on a cheaper price, eventually everybody can train their own data. And like all the small companies can put their own company data into the model. And then that will be a game changer for the industries.
I think that's a huge thing as well. Actually, what Dave mentioned is about data transformation. I don't think companies, whether they're real estate or perhaps even governments, they don't quite understand what's required around data transformation, around having ERP systems or data warehouses where all of the data is available in one place. And I've seen statistics where companies that do transform their data, do integrate it all within one platform, they achieve within sort of 3 years or so around 30 to 40% efficiencies, whether it's in revenue increase or whether it's just in the processing time. So definitely something that needs to be looked at as well. One of the challenges within the AI data space.
So in our industry, the keyword is how good the data that the AI is having access to, right?
Yes, and it's part of the reason why when we talk to our agents, we do inform them about ensuring that their data is very accurate. But there's a contradiction there that agents have, right? They I'm sure would want to put the correct data, but they want to protect their data at the same time. They don't want other agents to come in and take their listings, for example.
All right, interesting, ladies and gentlemen. So let's move forward to the last theme that we have today, which is empowering real estate professionals with AI. So, gentlemen, since the introduction of AI to our daily life, there's a fear among us that AI is super interesting but scary at the same time, right? So when we talk about this AI thing, how does that you feel or you foresee that AI will replace us in terms of real estate services? What do you think?
Maybe if I go again. So perhaps if we segment it by market, that might help us to analyze a bit better. So if we look at the residential market, I don't see personally AI replacing agents at all. Where I do see is automation and personal productivity increasing within agents, and what that might do, and I think it's a real risk that agents need to bear in mind, right? If you look at the global real estate market, right, last year it was worth about $115 billion of total commission, and that's mostly finite, right? So an agent can, take small part of that, which of course they would do. If they increase productivity, they can increase that percentage, right? So where I see is agents who become more efficient, they adopt more AI technologies, they're the ones who will win on this particular part, and that might displace newcomers into the industry or other agents who haven't yet adopted these sort of streamlined and automation tools. So that's on the residential part. And then also what we mentioned before about how residential is really about an emotional decision. So there's always that human touch. Oh, am I going to get a loan? What do you think about this kind of, those sorts of emotional questions. If we think about then sort of moving on to commercial, then I think there is a possibility where buyers and investors in the commercial space will be more intelligent. They will have more data available, and I think even to Singapore and US and UK, there is much more data available around commercial properties. So I think the investors and the buyers there will be a lot more clued up. There is a risk there, I feel, for agents. In the investment space, in the more corporate side of things, then I think there is a risk there as well. Not of agents, being replaced, but of buyers and consumers being much more educated, having a lot more available data, like we talked about the predictive analysis. Perhaps the silver lining in that might be that not all sellers actually want to list their investments on any platforms. They tend to make them private because they don't want their personal circumstances revealed. So I think all in all, I do believe that agents are here to stay. They help in some of the most largest and most important decisions in people's lives, and that's the key point: people's lives. It's not a machine life; it's a people, their life. And I do think that they'll be here to stay, but they can be more efficient.
Yeah. What do you think, Dave? Is there any fear among the teams on this sort of threat, maybe?
At this moment of time, not yet, because buying property is a big decision in life, and property is very big in value. It's not like buying like $10 or $20 items. It's like millions, which worth millions of ringgits. So you won't trust an AI right now. For your buying decision. So agents will still be here. Okay, buyers will still trust a human. They will not trust a robot when buying such a big amount of items. So what I believe is, I agree with Nabeel, is that AI can actually greatly increase our productivity and efficiency. So it can help us to conclude more deals. It can help us to have more time. Instead of texting client every single day, now the AI can take over this job. So agents are here to stay. That's what I believe at this period of time. In 10 years' time or 20 years' time, I do not know. But I think within this 10 years' time, agents are still here to stay.
Yeah.
I suppose to take a slightly different angle on that is about, so we've got agent, then we've got agency, right? And I think it's an important point to look at. So as a business, what we've done is, for example, we've grown our revenues, not our revenues, our sales over the past 10 years from $10 million to, as I mentioned, almost $3 billion that we're expecting this year. And if you look at the staff that we've had to make that growth happen, it hasn't significantly increased. Our tech team is mostly about the same. Our data services team is roughly the same. We might add maybe 5% headcount each year, and a large part of that has been that we've automated a lot of our processes. We've digitized a lot of our processes, as everybody sort of knows on the Juwai IQI side of things. So I think agencies have that risk perhaps more so than agents. And we've seen that ourselves. There's been a lot of consolidation where brokers and agencies haven't been able to quite keep up with the times, and they've stopped operations and joined other agencies, and that sort of consolidation has happened. So I think that's a certain risk, but it's more on the business side as opposed to the agent side.
Yeah, Justin, what about Singapore?
I would say it's a genuine risk. It's a genuine concern. But at the same time, I think replacement is perhaps too strong a word. Yeah. At the end of the day, I think tech, AI in this sense, is here to empower and enable, right? Be it the agent or the end consumer as well. And so to say replacement, I think it's a bit harsh. I really don't think that will happen. I think like what these two gentlemen have said as well, at the end of the day, we are still in a business that involves quite a significant amount of investment. Yeah. The capital is quite large. And it's not just about having that personal touch, because especially in buying a home, I also always agree. Actually, a home, as much as we try to put in as much data as possible, we all know it's when the Mrs. or the Mr. steps in, within 10 seconds, it's like, yes, this is it. And no amount of data will substantiate to say this is not a home for you, right?
Happy wife, happy life.
Exactly, right? So if you're there, you're there. So I think, again, because of the human element of things, especially when it comes to residential properties, it's still very hard to take that human element out of it. But at the same time, I think we must be very wary that all these things that are here to empower and enable are actually taking a little bit more function away from the traditional agent. We have to admit that. If you've got somebody scheduling and making appointments for you, that used to be part of your value chain, but now it's sitting with a machine. So should I be paying you less money?
Wow.
So you got to be very mindful about what you're actually putting aside and taking away from the agent. But the perceived value as an organization, I think how Nabeel also put it very clearly just now, is agent and agency, right? Of course, as an organization, if you're able to pack all that value, still as a value proposition to the end customer, nothing changes. It's still getting that same value service, in fact, increased value service. But the human element now becomes a little bit less. Because it doesn't step in much earlier. Maybe now it steps in, like, what Dave was saying as well. After the appointment is made, then the human element steps in, right? So would you mean then that you start paying the agent less money because the agent is only showing up much later in the process, right? So these are things that you have to be very cognizant of in terms of the consumer mind.
There is a real risk around that. So I know in the US, there's actually a big uproar amongst buyers who are having to pay both the buy and the sell side.
That's right.
So they're not happy.
Yeah.
As you were saying, AI will, make their case stronger.
Yes. So we have to be very cognizant about where the value is going. So as an organization, you still retain the value as a whole experience rather than looking at it as the agent, right? So again, for us as organizations, we need to be responsible for that part. Yeah, so I think that's the part where replacement won't come in, but technology will continue to, I would say, erode a little bit more of the function of the agent. Along the way. So we must be very mindful about this part as well.
I think all of us can agree that AI will not replace us, but those who empowered with AI will replace the rest of them, right?
They will get the lion's share of the cake, right?
All right. Very interesting take back, especially when the customer is asking for more discount. Okay, so I think we have come to the last part of our great session today. So maybe the last question from me will be the closing remarks. Can you just give maybe one or two sentences? What would you be your key advice for the real estate professionals to prepare themselves for the AI-driven future of the industry?
I think you answered one of it already, the word there. I always like that word, embrace, right? Yeah, you cannot ignore the significance of technology and artificial intelligence coming into our space. Because I think traditionally bricks and mortar has been quite a traditional business for a long time, and there's actually so much to change. One of the things that Nabeel mentioned earlier on as well about information sitting in silos. I think that's such a big space to really open up as well, right? Because like I said, valuations could be completely relooked. If now you know where eyeballs are looking, you can combine that with valuation as well, maybe in the foreseeable future. So you need to embrace it. I think it's very exciting because I think all these things with tech is only going to be leading to a more efficient kind of system in the future. So you need to embrace it. There's no denying that. But at the same time, pursuant to what I was mentioning earlier on in the concern that AI will replace agents, I think then we need to be mindful about what parts is the human element going to be retaining in that whole value chain of an agent today, right? And in really understanding where your value proposition is in that chain, you need to accentuate, continue to train yourself as well to develop stronger skill sets. Like for instance, it can be something from as simple as customer service. If after all people are still using you as a human touch, then you better make sure that you are a very fine specimen of a human who knows how to deal with very well with another human being. Otherwise, very soon as well, actually, you never know that AI could even be a finer specimen of customer service than you are. So we need to continually work on that part as well. Soft skills, right? The more we put things onto a system, the more we need to step in to actually spend time on the human side of the business, right? I think the third thing about that overall is just having that positive attitude. Things change all the time. So that's why you need to really learn to embrace change and then really always be rethinking constructively, how do I continue to be relevant for the future? So I think that attitude and mindset is probably the most important thing. Yeah, we're survivors. We will always survive.
Yeah.
Right. And I think this kind of opportunities that enables us to move into a new chapter of growth is also very powerful for us to then realize where is our next chapter of growth. Yeah. In alongside with technology. Yeah.
Thank you, Justin. I keep Nabeel as the last remark.
Okay.
Mr. Dave.
I think all agents should embrace AI technology. There's no point resisting it. Just like what happened in the Industrial Revolution. In the old days, riding horses is one of the main mode of transportation. Then the cars came, and a lot of these people who ride horses, or the entire industry that revolve around horses, they resist the cars. They say a car can run at 70 kilometers per hour, and then it can cause a lot of accidents. It can cause fatality. When a car bang on a human, that human can die. So there are a group of people that resist the change, but I think there's no point resisting, because that's the eventuality of the technology will change everybody's life, just like cars came. So at this point of time, AI is coming. I mean, it has already come. It will change everybody's life. So there's no point resisting it. Just embrace it. There's a saying, AI will not replace humans, but humans who know how to use AI will replace those who don't. So if you do not want to be replaced, embrace AI technology and improve your own productivity and efficiency. That's my thought.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave.
Really, I think what I would do is echo what Justin and Dave both said, but perhaps at a slightly different angle. And if I speak directly to property agents out there, my sort of 2 words to you would be: 1, get out of your comfort zone. You cannot be in your comfort zone. You have to embrace AI. It is here to stay. So get out of your comfort zone. Try out those new tools, try out those new platforms. And what that means is you'll need to spend some money on them. So don't be afraid to set aside, a certain amount of budget, whether it be $100, whether it be $1,000, whatever you can do. Explore all the different platforms that are coming out, because you don't know which one is actually going to take off and really, bring you those leads, bring you those closures, or automate your processes. So 2 words, or perhaps 3 words: get out of your comfort zone.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we finish our session today, and thank you to all the panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.